under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now for our second agenda item, I would turn the floor over to Superintendent Culkeen, who will lead us in the reorganization of this board.
Good evening. First, before we reorganize, would the chair like to run a roll call for the benefit of Richard, of who's present?
Certainly. So we'll start with the board members ourselves. So present, as far as I see, is Chris Murphy. I see Chayla Sikora. I see Dick France. I see, it looks like Cindy Brownell. I see Tammy Soul. Let's see.
Scott is here, but by
Scott
phone.
McEnany is on, and I don't believe we have either our second Woodford representative or our second Shaftesbury representative.
I don't
I see, of course, Superintendent Culkeen. I see Principal Donna Cawley. I see Assistant Superintendent Laura Boudreau. I see Patricia Conway, Melissa Senecal. I see Dr. Kate Abbott. I see Donna Jones. I see Jerry Prue. I see Jamie Poland. I see Elizabeth Duffy, Katie West, Courtney Pierce, and then I believe I see two phone numbers, one of whom is Scott McEnany, and I would ask the other person simply listed by a phone number to identify themselves, please, for the roll call. I see 447-1921, and I see 345-3966.
Chris, Tammy Soul is the 1921.
Yep.
Okay,
She's
very
here,
good.
Computer and phone. Right. Sorry.
I've got an issue.
Very good.
Right.
And
So
that leaves
Richard-
Scott as the 345.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
That's right.
Thank you for your
that's
last
right.
official act as chair of the 2020-21 school board. So
It's been a
now
good
to
run.
the reorganization for next year's school board. At this time, I am asking for nominations for chair of the Southwest Vermont Union Elementary School District. Are there any nominations?
Nominate Chris Murphy.
Shayla has
second that.
nominated and Dick France has seconded. Are there any other nominations? Richard, we now also have Jeff Leake join the meeting, if you can see that. Good evening, Jeff. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I will close the nominations on all in favor for chair, and all in favor of Christopher Murphy being the chair of the Southwest Vermont Union Elementary School District, please say aye.
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 All right. Are there any opposed? Are there any anybody abstaining? So Richard, hearing none opposed and none abstaining, I'm going to say it was unanimous of those present that Christopher Murphy has been elected chair of the Southwest Vermont Union Elementary School District, and it is once again his meeting.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Culkeen, and thank you to the board members again for what I will interpret as a vote of confidence in moving forward, and not as a total lack of interest from anyone else. But no, thank you very much, everyone. And I would just want to add, for those of us who were reelected on town meeting day, congratulations, everyone. Again, thank you for taking the time to dedicate to doing this particular work.
And if you would elect a vice chair and your two representatives to the supervisory union,
Yep.
reorganization will be complete, and then you will appoint your committee assignments at your leisure.
Absolutely. So we will open the floor for nominations for a vice chair.
I would be interested.
I nominate Cindy.
Thank you.
Second it.
Second.
Okay. So we have Cindy Brownell as a nominee for the vice chair. Do we have any other nominations? Any other nominations? And asking a third time, any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, all those in favor of electing Cindy Brownell as vice chair of the SVU ESD signify by raising your hand and or saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Very good. You've elected Cindy Brownell as the vice chair of the SVU ESD. We also,
you.
as Superintendent Culkeen noted, we need to elect two representatives to the SVSU board. And so I would open the floor for nominations.
I nominate Chayla.
Very good. We have a
Second.
nomination for Chayla with a second from Dick. Any other nominations?
I nominate Dick.
We have a nomination for Dick.
I'll second it.
And we have a second from Jeff. Thank you very much. Do we have any other nominations?
And I nominate Scott also.
So we have a nomination for Scott as well.
Because there's 3 of us, right?
There's 3. Yeah, I misspoke. 2 was the old configuration. Sorry.
And I'll second.
Thank you for catching that, Shayla. So a second. So we have 3 nominees. Are there any other nominations to be made? So as we have only 3 nominees for 3 slots, we can elect by a slate. So all those in favor of electing the 3 nominees who are Chayla, Dick, and Scott, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Very good. So that slate of representatives to the SVSU board has been elected. So thank you very much for being willing to serve to Cindy and to the 3 board reps. Thank you very much for being willing to serve in that capacity. In terms of committee appointments, unless anyone has objections to continuing to serve in the capacity they have been on their previous committee assignments, I would ask that all of that just carry over for the ensuing year. So folks can let me know if they no longer want to serve in the various capacities they've been serving in, and that's fine. But if I don't hear from you, you're still on the hook for that.
Scott,
Yes, Dick.
Oh, go ahead, Cindy.
I'd like to be considered for the facility one.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy.
Welcome.
And my question went to, do we have to elect a clerk for this board?
I think
Yes.
we do, as a matter of fact. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Dick. So I would entertain any nominations for clerk of the SVU ESD.
Who is our current clerk?
I think Scott is
that-
our current clerk.
Scott?
I nominate Scott. He
He's
did a
doing-
good job.
He's doing a great job of it.
Yeah.
So we have a nomination. And
I
a second.
second it.
Yes.
Thank you. Any further nominees for board clerk? Hearing none, all those in favor of electing Scott McEnany as the clerk of the SVU ESD, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, and Scott is elected. Thank you. So our next agenda item is opening up for public comment. So I see several folks who are not board members and who are not central office employees who are present. So I would open the floor at this point. If you are a member of the public who wishes to make comment, please let us know your name and your town of residence, please.
Some of them may be here as part of the presentation too. That
Okay.
you don't.
So are there any members of the public who wish to make public comments? Okay, moving on. Our next agenda item is to approve the consent agenda. The consent agenda, of course, was published. We have a number of minutes that need to be approved. Notification of several retirements, including the Bennington Elementary Principal Edie Dunn.
Can I just point something out, Chris? Right
Sure,
now,
Jeff.
that's disabled, so I don't know if people can get on or not. So when I go to chat and I look at it, it says the chat's disabled. So I don't know how people are going to chime in to do public comment if that's disabled. Or if there's no way on my screen to raise your hand either. So I don't know if people are locked out from commenting right now.
I don't
I'm
know.
looking at 24 people and that's quite a few, so.
So what I would note is that for anyone who is listening who wishes to make public comment right now, the manner to do that is to, on the bottom of your screen, there's a row of icons, one of which is reactions. If you click on reactions, you then get a number of options, hand claps and hearts and flowers and all that. Click any of them. You click any of them and we will see it and we'll be sure to acknowledge you and bring you
Can we
on
just have a
board.
board member try it to make sure it's working?
I'm going to clap right now.
I just did right now.
There we go. Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
So I won't move on to the next agenda item until I'm certain that everyone who might want to make public comment can notify us of their desire through using the reactions.
Looks like we have Liz Duffy there.
Thank you very much.
Ooh, yeah,
All
I
right.
think I'm unmuted. thank you for pointing that out, because on the public meeting last week, I was not able to chat or unmute myself. I had questions
Okay.
during the special meeting last week prior to the election. So thanks for pointing that out on Zoom. My question is, are you going to be sending around a new bus survey now that I'm in Shaftesbury, now that the changes, there's even more significant changes to the drop-off schedule and pickup schedule? Is there going to be a new bus survey coming out?
So if there's a quick answer to that from the superintendent, we'll ask him for that now. If not, that is something that we will figure out and get back to. And I'm sorry, was this Elizabeth Duffy? Is that what I want to make sure I had that correct?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
From Shaftesbury. Yeah.
The quick answer wait, am I unmuted? The quick answer is we were not contemplating sending out an additional bus survey. We just implemented the last one, but we can certainly have a discussion. And if Elizabeth, if you want to email me a specific question, I will respond to it. But right now we weren't going to do another bus survey. The capacity has not changed. That is the problem. I anticipate we would do another bus survey if the state does anything with capacity. And we are being told that the state task force is meeting next week to look at the healthy openings guidance that they have given us, which hasn't changed. So we're hoping that there will be some changes on that guidance when they meet next week regarding physical distancing.
And Jim, can you just say your email address just so folks who are listening can have that, please?
It's James Culkeen, which is Culkeen at svsu.org. James Culkeen at svs.org. I don't know why chat is disabled, because I have the chat disabled. I'm going to put it in the chat and see if it shows up.
So if there are any other members of the public who wish to make comment, please use that reactions button on the icon list down at the bottom. All right. So seeing no others, and Jeff, thanks for bringing that to our attention. It's worth clarifying so folks know. Yep.
Like I said, my chat's still disabled, so I think that's something we got to look into.
Yeah, because I just put my, can you see my email in the chat? I just put it in.
I see it.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. So returning to our consent agenda. So we have 3 retirements that are noted in the consent agenda. The Principal Edie Dunn from Bennington Elementary, Vice Principal Kim Tenner from Molly Stark, and Guillermo Vieira, who was with Pownell Elementary School. And I believe Guillermo has been with Pownell Elementary School for years and years and years. So certainly thanks to Guillermo for his service. We also have 2 resignations that are noted, and that exhausts the consent agenda. So I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as published, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Cindy. Any discussion about approving the consent agenda? Dick, go ahead, please.
Well, we have a very efficient clerk for this board. Is there a possibility that we could send letters, as we have done in the past, that either highlights some of the performance or something that they can carry with them as their resume as they move on? These are pretty important people that have been with us for a long time, and it's often not something we spend a lot of effort on to recognize the benefit that they have provided for us. So is that something the clerk could do?
So I would certainly entertain a motion to empower the clerk to draft those letters to Edie, Kim, and Guillermo. Is that what you
Make a
wanted,
motion.
Dick? Thank you, Cindy, for making that motion.
And I would like to include one other, because Sandy Foster, I think, is still on the list as a retiree, is she not?
Yes, she
Yes.
is. So, yeah.
Yes.
And so that's quite a load, but I think these are important letters that I would think they'd like to see that we like them and that we thought a lot of them.
I
think
agree.
it's an excellent idea, Dick. So we have a motion on the floor right now to empower our clerk to write those letters on behalf of the board. So could I have a second for that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you, Chayla. Any discussion about the motion on the floor, which is as Dick just described? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of empowering the clerk in the manner described, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I just
Any
want to mention,
abstentions?
Scott, if you would like some information on anything to help with those letters, just reach out. And if there's
Yeah,
something
I was
you don't
I was
know,
going to ask that question.
Yep.
As far as what my resources would be to help with that.
yeah, reach out and I'll connect you to the right person who would know them.
Awesome.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
So that motion passed. So thank you very much ahead of time for Scott for doing that. And Dick, thanks for the great suggestion. Thank you for that. So moving on to agenda item number 5, the treasurer's report for February. I did actually not see that had actually been posted. I'm not sure if folks had seen otherwise. So if it's not been posted, I imagine it will be
I don't think it was
soon. And if,
completed yet.
okay, so if need be, we can return to that. I mean, it is as an FYI, but we can return to it at the next meeting just to make sure there are no questions regarding the February treasurer's report. So moving on to agenda item number 6, which is the superintendent's report. So Superintendent Culkeen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. So the biggest thing I want to tell you tonight is what you probably already heard is we're going to return on Monday to having students in school 4 days per week. Wednesday will remain asynchronous. It's not going to, it should happen in all of your schools. It's still going to be difficult to do at high school level because in middle school because of the 6-foot distancing requirement is still in place there, but we're committed to bringing in as many of the students as possible. It's unbelievable to think that we're approaching a 1-year anniversary of this, but it's important in planning with the principals. I can't thank them enough for the work that they've been doing with their staff and our teachers as we navigate towards, and support staff. I don't want to leave them out too, as we navigate towards getting everybody back. The other important information is the vaccine teachers and anyone working in our schools will be vaccinated, and that starts this Saturday and is going to run for the next 3 Saturdays in conjunction with the hospital. So it's, you've heard me complain before at previous meetings that, you know, when the governor and AOE made the statement that they want us all back in school by April 1, but the decision hadn't been made to vaccinate teachers. I don't see how you could have done that without one. So I applaud the Agency of Education. I'll give them credit. I criticize them. So at this point, I'll give them credit for making that happen, that educators are going to move forward sooner rather than later. So that will just help us get schools reopening. The governor's press conference today indicated that there'll be no restrictions on out-of-state travel for people who are vaccinated. So at this time, said we will not be planning a remote week for the week after April vacation, because teachers will be considered fully vaccinated after 2 weeks after receiving that vaccination. So I don't see the need to do that for our staff. There may be students who are going to need to quarantine upon returning from travel during school vacation. And I understand the pent-up desire to travel after a year of this. So, but that's not etched in stone, but I don't see where we're going to need to do it if all our, or the majority of our staff who wish to be vaccinated are vaccinated. We can't require that somebody is vaccinated, but hopefully we'll reach a critical number where then we can reopen. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is, you know that, you know, substitutes has been a challenge for us. So I'd like acknowledgement from the board of something that that was proposed in an administrator's meeting with the assistant superintendent and the director of human resources, Nick Galt, of paying an emergency premium on substitutes. That, going forward and it won't be until after I get the MAU board approval too. So probably a week from Monday, whatever that date is, that any substitute who commits to work for us for 5 days, and it won't be 5 consecutive, but they do 5 days, we'd like to pay a $200 premium. It's an idea that we're stealing from other school districts that accounts to an extra $40 per day to get and hope that will increase our substitute rate. We're also going to be using central office personnel. We're giving them an opportunity to substitute in our school buildings as a way to increase substitutes. I think Nick told me today that maybe there's only 16 substitutes in all our schools that would meet that 5-day criteria right now if we move forward. So that goes to show you how lacking we have been on subs this year. So I'm not worried about it from a financial point of view because we haven't had subs. There is money in the account to do this and pay this as kind of a incentive to get individuals to commit to us. If anybody is at home listening and would love to substitute to us, call Gloria Cahill at central office tomorrow and say, I would love to sub, and with board approval, if I sub 5 days, then I would get an additional $200 at the end of the 5 days. And it wouldn't be another 200 at the end of 5. You know, if they work 10 days, they get, 400. That's not what I'm proposing here, but some type of acknowledgement that they're, and this would expire when the state of emergency expired. So I hope that the board could support that idea. I don't know if I need a vote or as much as not to hear an objection.
Well, to be on the up and up, I would entertain a motion to approve the plan that Superintendent Culkeen just outlined for everyone.
I'll make the motion to approve the $200 stipend for 5 days.
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Dick. Any further discussion on the plan as proposed? Dick, go ahead, please.
I guess, so it's $200 if they do 5 days. And so is it something that happens a lot that they would do 10 days, or you'd need 10 days? And how do you cut that?
Well, I don't think the intent is to, and we could revisit that, but as we see what the, what the need is, it's not to every time you do 5 days, you get another 200. It's just a one-time acknowledgement that you made that commitment, and hopefully that you will stay with us after you do those 5 days. And our plan with central office staff, and that includes, our administrative support staff, that we will release you 1 day a week if you're willing, and you could substitute in a school 1 day per week. The understanding, you still need to get your other job done, but it's a small stipend to one of our administrative assistants to get on top of their regular salary. They could pick up a substitute pay. And the beauty of this for us is they already have all their background checks done. So this can happen immediately. So, and I think I'm excited about the idea because I think it's a positive that it may put some people into a classroom who haven't been in there a long time and realize, what a difficult job being a substitute and being a teacher is. And I think we all gain a little when we have some insight into, we walk in somebody else's shoes for a little while. So I wish I could offer it to board members, but I don't think I'm allowed to have you substitute, but I can check into that if anyone's interested, but I don't think, because you're the board, so I don't think I can also then make you an employee. So, but it's been a challenge. I got a couple of principals here tonight, and I can't praise them enough for what they've done this year and what they deal with every morning with, like, am I going to have enough coverage, and what do I have to juggle, and what do I have to move around to make that day work? And it's only as we bring students in 4 days a week, we're concerned that it may just accelerate this. So that's why we're going to these extraordinary means to get substitutes. So again, anybody listening at home, call Gloria Cahill at central office and say, I want a sub for the SVSU. So,
Jim, can you just remind us, please, what the daily rate is for a substitute teacher?
It varies by what your degree is. So I think it ranges, what, 85 to 100. Is anybody here? No, Nick isn't here tonight to give me the exact number, but I think that's the range, $85 to $100 a day.
Okay.
And
That's
quick
not right.
thing, Jim, could you just comment on what they need to do to be a substitute? I mean, they got that.
We'd put you through our quick little training that Gloria Cahill does, and Melissa's participated in that. So they go through sub training. It's not even a day, and we do a background check. We can do a quick on the spot background check with the Vermont database, and then the fingerprint one takes a little bit longer. But we can bring you in as a substitute with that first background check, as long as you're supervised with somebody else. This is, extraordinary times, the pressure on substitutes. So it's not a lengthy process, Jeff, and not difficult. I think the requirement is like with everybody in education, you have to want to work with children and be with children, and and I would say, who doesn't, right? So I plan on substituting myself. I will not take the stipend. Don't worry about that. But I will, once we're all fully vaccinated, and it's because administrators, we've been keeping central office administrators out of school buildings, even though, it's not a pod, but people seemed, they think like that. So like if I went into a building that I don't normally work in, people panic like, well, where's he been? What's that? So we've really kind of discouraged that. And I know I have administrators who are chomping at the bit to start touring and getting in schools, but once everyone's vaccinated, then we will open that up. So that's really what I have presentations for you tonight, but those are my updates. Are any questions for me before I go to the next part of Superintendent's report?
So I don't think actually we've completed action on the motion that's on the floor.
Sorry.
Just one other question. Is there an educational prerequisite for substitute teachers? Is there a degree?
You could be a high school graduate and be a substitute for us.
All right.
So that's where the pay differential. So you could be a high school graduate, you could be a college student, you could have associate, you could have your bachelor's, and then if you're a licensed teacher, we pay you different increment rates.
Okay. So any other discussion on the motion on the floor which is to pay the $200 bonus stipend for substitute teachers who work in at least 5 days for the district? So hearing none, all those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries.
Well, thank you for your support on that, and hopefully it'll generate a little publicity and maybe bring us in some more candidates and to realize how much they love working with children. So, okay, we're going to give you a couple updates tonight. You see it on the agenda: literacy parent night, math parent night, fitness fest. I have one other that didn't make it onto the agenda. We have a presentation for you for our On Point Elementary program. So the literacy and math is going to be a combined presentation on the family engagement. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Laura Boudreau. She will orchestrate this presentation, and it's going to be multiple people involved. So
thanks for having us. And I'm doing this in partnership with the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, Melissa Senecal, who's also here. And so we have many guests in the room, and we're going to kind of introduce them as we go. So Melissa and I are going to kick this off for you. And family engagement has been I would say, a huge success for us. We've learned a lot and been able to implement new strategies to stay connected to families. And so parent engagement is also a title insurance. So as we receive federal money, we sign off every year that we will engage in parent engagement. And we also have SVSU parent engagement policies 5010 and 5011. I actually think one or two of them might be down below under a policy review, because we are also required to update them regularly. Melissa?
So I thank you all for your time and the ability to share the great work for the people that you'll be meeting in a few minutes and the people who've been a part of this who are behind the scenes. So every year, ideas are collected from the school community and activities are also collected to make sure that they align with the school and district continuous improvement plan goals. In November, a family survey data showed that 60% of our families reported that they assist their child with learning assignments in Google Classroom and CSUN. And from that, there was a request for some professional learning to support that remote learning linked to clear learning targets. So parent engagement during the pandemic has led to a shift to visual formats. And here are 3 highlighted areas that support this work. Laura, the introduction.
So we're going to introduce you to 3 small groups that have focused on this work. And at the end of after we've done all 3 groups, if the board has any questions, we would be happy to answer them. So at first, we are in the state of Vermont. We focus on a multi-tiered system of support, which is a balance of social, emotional, behavior, and academics. So we have a continuous improvement plan goal number 2, safe and healthy schools. And so we have a group that has is now in the process of organizing the 3rd Fitness Fest. This Fitness Fest is supported through our MAC grant, which is a Medicaid grant, and then also the Mellon grant, which is our partnership with Bennington College that focuses on food insecurities. So I would like to introduce Courtney Pierce, who is a 2nd grade teacher at Bennington Elementary School and is on this committee. Jamie Poland, who's the phys ed teacher at Bennington Elementary School, and Katie West, who is our SVSU communication coordinator, and they're going to give you a little snippet about Fitness Fest.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. So our 2nd virtual Family Fitness Fest ran from February 8th to the 21st. It was set up for families to engage in 5 different activities. Families were encouraged to complete most of the activities together as a group. We kind of curated some of those activities where they could be more individual, but most of them we wanted people to do something together just so they had a family activity that was maybe a little different from the same old stuff that they've been doing while stuck in their homes for the past year. We had 132 entries this time around, which was exactly 5 more than our first one. We did learn that having the window of opportunity for folks to submit their evidence for these activities, but up right against a school break, helped them just have a little bit more time to participate. So I think that small increase, we saw a lot of the participants over April break, or February break rather. We had overwhelming positive feedback from various folks that had completed the activities and then reached out. So all of the activities were open to SVSU students aged 4 to 14. So it's pre-K and then some 9th graders, pre-K to 8th grade, but there are some 9th graders in there. Those entered were eligible to win incentives, which were bought using grant funds linked to the theme of wellness. Like Laura mentioned, we do have a 3rd virtual Family Fitness Fest that's in the works that will hopefully be around spring break, but we're still planning. Like I mentioned earlier, though, our Family Fitness Fest Winter Edition featured 5 activities for families to enjoy. 4 of those activities had videos that we made together as a working group. The videos were linked on the SVSU website along with corresponding Google forms for folks to submit evidence that they completed the activities. And now Jamie will take us through what each of those activities were.
Thanks, Katie. One of the most exciting parts of Family Fitness Fest was our SVSU Fresh Box. This was a box of fresh ingredients of vegetable lasagna. Families were able to sign up ahead of time and then pick up their boxes at the meal pickup window at the middle school. We were able to make and give away 50 boxes of ingredients to help promote healthy cooking and quality family time. This activity would not have been possible without the complete cooperation and kindness of the Abby group. So thank you to them. Another activity was the virtual escape room that focused on safety. This was another activity where we really encouraged families to work as a group. Instead of a video, participants went through different puzzles that were housed in a Google form. They had to solve each puzzle before they were allowed to move through the various rooms. And then we also had a yoga video that was made by a high school teacher, Megan Morgan Puglisi, and that was specifically geared towards the younger students. Like in our original virtual Family Fitness Fest, we had an outdoor obstacle course that encouraged kids to have fun with regular household items. And then finally, we wanted to promote community partners by highlighting the snowshoe rentals at the Bennington Free Library.
Hi, Courtney Pierce. I was really excited to hear that one of my students was participating in the Family Fitness Fest this winter. We talked a lot about it as a class, about the amazing opportunities to have some fun with our family while staying active and learning new healthy habits. My student joined our morning meeting the next day and shared with our class about the lasagna that she had made with her new meal box. She made it with her parents and 2 older brothers that are in our district. They made both the meat and vegetarian options. She was so excited to share and has since shared different meals that she has made with her family. This has sparked the interest of other students in my class, and now we have daily discussions about the meals that we've made the night before with our families. We have even learned new meals. I am so excited to share the excitement with my students and hope for more participation in our Spring Family Fitness Fest. My student also thought it was pretty cool that her teacher and PE teacher were featured in one of the videos. I'm really proud of this group and look forward to continuing our work together to provide a healthy education for our school community. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks. So I want to thank Courtney, Jamie, and Katie for giving you a little snippet about Fitness Fest. And now I'm going to introduce our district math coach, Pat Conway, who is very much focused on our continuous improvement goal number 3, which is math. And she's going to share a little bit about the virtual math nights.
Hey, hello everyone. Yep, I'm going to talk about the SVSU Family Virtual Math Night. It was the first one that we had, and it was January 28th on a Thursday evening from 6 to 7. The audience for this event were our SVSU 3rd grade families and up. The 5th grade students across our district, they were the group who received a kit of 4 dice and instruction. Laura, do you have the dice that you could hold one of them up to the screen?
I don't have one right in front of me.
Oh, okay. Well, they're called dodecahedron dice because they have 10 sides. They have the numbers 0 through 9 on them. Each student had 4 dice. So with these dice, students were going to be playing a game called Play 24. Play 24 is a numeracy game that uses 4 random numbers from 0 to 9 that you operate on, that the result is 24. Now these operations are add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Our more advanced students are welcome to use square roots and radicals and even logs if you're brave. But this is 3rd through 5th, so we're focusing on add, subtract, multiply, and divide. The math standards that are connected to this fluency game are found in the Common Core domains, operations and algebraic thinking, numbers in base 10, and numbers and fractions. I facilitated the virtual event, and math coach from Molly Stark, Carrie Gardner, was co-host. This tech stuff, not really my thing, so Carrie was a great support in that. We had 2 teacher representatives from each building ready to facilitate breakout rooms. Our night saw 33 participants and 19 different Zoom logins. And this was across the district. This was not building specific. So we were very excited about that first participation for that night. So I thought it would be very exciting for us to experience 24 as a group. Mm-hmm. Now, where do these numbers generate from when you don't have dice? Well, that's a burning question. I have my license plate there. That's one of the ways that you can generate 4 numbers. In fact, my good friend, Miss Boudreau, used to call this the license plate game because I do have a reputation for following cars so I can get the 4 digits off the license plate. You can also get 4 digits off of food boxes, last four of a phone number, radio stations, weights, birthday years, any 4 digits that you can come up with. The solution rate is 88%, and that's an awesome challenge for our students. The 88% of any 4-digit combinations has a solution. Now you can Google a solution, just put in 24, what is the solution, any combination, a question like that, and Google's gonna help you out. But try to resist and persevere and solve. Okay, are you ready, Laura? Let's see if we can get a roll for our 4 digits. Now, it's best to write them down. So if you have pencil and paper in front of you, and I need to reach around and get a pen. Okay, Laura, what 4 digits are we working with?
4, 6, 3, 5.
Okay, so I'm gonna allow a few moments of think time. And it would be fun if you put the reaction up if you have a solution. Remember, use each of the 4 digits once. Don't be a number grabber and grab that 4 and 6 and say, "Ooh, I got it. 4 times 6 is 24. True, it is, but you haven't used the 3 and the 5. Okay, folks, go to work.
Anybody get one?
Any reactions up yet?
Anybody get one?
I don't see any reactions yet.
I'm trying.
Yet. Yeah, not yet. It's not that we haven't yet. We're getting there.
Pat, did you get one?
No, not yet.
I picked poor numbers.
Wait, you
So
mean
Pat-
this isn't staged and Pat doesn't already know the answer?
You wouldn't let me do that.
Beautiful.
So Pat, are you okay if we let them fiddle while we let Donna Jones go and do her part?
Absolutely. I have one more thing to share.
Go ahead.
Pat, would you mind just saying quickly, just if they're going to continue to put the directions fresh in their mind one more time?
Okay, you have the 4 digits. You can put them in any order that you need to. You're going to use each digit once. You're allowed to any combination of add, subtract, multiply, or divide. But you have to use each digit once. And we
And you gotta
did
come
have,
up-
sorry, what, Jim?
And what is, all right, there's no final number though in it, though.
Yes,
Or
24.
24, that's, all right.
24. 24
Whatever.
is your target number. That is
Okay.
your goal. I'm
I will fail
surprised
at
Kathy
this.
doesn't have one yet.
I will fail at this. I just thought I'd sound more intelligent if I asked, a question.
So maybe, so I certainly plan on continuing with this, although I'm already convinced that
Yeah.
this is one of the 12% of number combinations that has no solution at all. But
Yeah.
that aside, I am hoping we can give our full attention to the rest of the presentations. But I, for one, will continue to work on it, and we'll get my response to you as soon as I can.
And we did have positive feedback the next day. Students that participated were chatting about it in the classroom. Most of our students were 4th and 5th graders.
Thank
Our
you,
next
Pat.
night is Thursday, and our target audience is K-1-2, and we're playing Pyramids of 10 for fluency within 10. So thank you all for playing tonight.
Thank you.
Who's next, Laura?
So Donna Jones is a building literacy coach at Pownell Elementary School, and she's representing this strand tonight. Our district literacy coach, Karen Waselenko, is actually right now running a parent night for this very thing. So Donna Jones, welcome.
You're muted, Donna Jones.
She's
Here's
trying to
Melissa
get a mute.
Cynical. Look at Melissa Cynical with the answer.
Uh-oh,
Okay.
there you go.
Okay, we did our first family literacy night back in January, and it was on rhyming and memory games. And the nice thing about this is after we played the games with the students and their families, it's a game that they could keep home and play over and over again. And our program on January, as it is, our next one is Thursday, is for K1. And what each of the students got was they each got a bag with anything that they would need for the activity. And the way that the games were selected were the foundational skills that all K1 students will need so that they can be successful as they go on in their literary work. And so the bags were put together at Central, and then they were brought to the schools, and then we handed them out. So each of the students got their own bag, and they were able to participate. And if there were instructions that needed to go home, we sent home so that when they cut the pieces out, they didn't cut them, so they didn't know what to do with them. So we had our first night, and it went really well. The kids were so excited to be doing games at home, and the parents were excited to be participating with them. And I think everybody, even Maggie Phelps, who helped me with the first night, we had a good time doing it because it was just fun for everyone. Our first one, we did phonological awareness, and that was rhyming. Our next one that's coming up will also be on Thursday. It's also for K and 1, and that's on phoneme segmentation, where the students have to listen for each of the different sounds in the words. And there are 2 different games that we'll be playing. One of them will just be explaining how to play because it's an outside hopscotch game. And the other one is just moving little markers around so they hear the different sounds in the words. And we've had a good time planning it, and the kids had a good time playing it. And after we finished our first one in January, they wanted to know when was going to be the next one. So we're all set for Thursday for K-1 to do our second part of the literacy night.
Thank you, Donna. So our goal tonight was just to give you some little snippets of some parent engagement activities that have happened since the start of the year. And please know that we're using this platform to continue in other areas. The art teachers also have access to Title IV money that they'll be looking forward to offering art experiences to families and students this spring. There's also a running opportunity coming up for families that we just looked at today. And these are examples of some other events going on. Is there any questions from the board for any of us about parent engagement activities?
No,
Well,
I
thank
want
you
to.
for
I'm
having
not,
us.
I'm not seeing any Assistant Superintendent Boudreau, but thank you very much. That was all great. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for hearing about all that.
Thank you.
And did we have a solution?
Melissa Senecal figured it out.
Oh, all right. All right.
Yeah,
Thank
yes.
And
Well done.
another one is 5 minus 4, which is 1, plus 3, which is 4, and 4 times 6 is 24.
Yeah.
So this is an example that there are multiple solutions for many, many sets of 4 numbers.
Good. Well, thank you all. Is Dick got a question, or is he? No. I think he's muted.
You're muted, Dick.
I just wanted to make a comment that about 15 years ago, the SVSU board took a test that I believe was made for 5th graders. There wasn't a person in the room who passed the test. So it says
You're right,
something, says something about, yeah, you were there, Cindy, that's right. It says something about the level of education that we're actually delivering to kids. So thank you.
Okay. So thank you to all that participated. It's always, particularly the teachers who joined us tonight. It's, I think it's so much, no criticism to my fellow administrators, but I think having the rec practitioners give a presentation to the board, I find that very enlightening. And Pat, always wonderful to see you and hear you. Thank you. You make math fun, and that's so important. So many people have, we hear about math phobia, and the more we can do to make it fun, it just strengthens that learning. So thank you. I don't always understand it, but thank you. The other final report for you tonight, we have Principal Donna Cawley here. And we have Dr. Kate Abbott, our Interim Director of Student Support Services. And we've asked, it was asked that they give a report on Point Elementary, because it becomes apparent that a lot of board members, well, you know Shaftesbury Elementary, you know Woodford, you know Pownell and Bennington Elementary, Molly Stark and Monument, but some of you may not know about this program and where it's located and what it contains. So with that, Dr. Abbott and Principal Colley, the meeting's yours.
Thank you. I'm just going to share our screen here, and I'm just going to get to the presentation mode. There we go. All righty. So thanks so much, Donna Colley, for coming tonight. Donna is one of our lead administrators for the On Point intervention, and she's helped us greatly this year in supporting the new intervention that is On Point. So On Point is our part of our multi-tiered system of support in the SVSU, and it is a tier 3 intervention to meet the needs of learners. And our MTSS system addresses both academic, behavioral, and social emotional growth and development.
So thank you all for allowing me to take some time to share in some really good news and work that we're doing here within the Svu Esd. And I am, additionally, if I might note, I'm very excited to have central office employees to help out as substitutes, both at our On Point intervention and at Monument Elementary School. So I am very excited about that. And I think you will enjoy your time if you make it to one of our communities. And so as you can see by the overview, this is some great information about what we're doing currently. This intervention does serve students at the K through 8th grade elementary and middle level and specializes in trauma-informed behavioral, therapeutic, and social emotional supports. We currently have 6 teachers working there, and we have 9 paraprofessionals. We have 2 mental health counselors, 1 licensed clinical social worker, 1 homeschool liaison, 1 board certified behavior analyst overseeing behavioral interventions. And we're also really very appreciative of the work that we're doing with our community partners. So we not only are working with Jessa Ordway, our behavioral coach for the district, but we're working with our community partners from United Counseling Service, liaison Bob Weberhorst, who oversees the UCS clinicianal staff. And he also sits on our leadership committee. So the On Point Intervention Leadership Committee meets every single week on a Thursday. And we're continuing to review what we're doing to support this intervention. We have the ability to serve 30 students there from the schools throughout the Svu Esd. And also the middle school. And currently we're below capacity. We have about 24 students there.
Thanks, Donna. I was wondering if you were going to take the next slide. So Donna spoke a little bit about the leadership team at On Point. The leadership team is a multidisciplinary team made up of a number of members of representatives, both from the SVSU schools as well as from our community partner, UCS, and we meet every Thursday at 9. We look at, as the leadership team, we look at how to ensure that we are providing the best possible supports in the On Point intervention, as well as looking at the progress and the growth of each individual learner within that On Point intervention. The leadership team also reviews new referrals. We just received a 102-page referral that we'll be reviewing on Thursday. And as Donna shared, we have our UCS clinical supervisor, Bob, as well as Principal Payne, Jessa Ordway, our district behavior coach. I sit on the committee, as well as Assistant Principal Tony Lee, Principal Colley, and our BCBA, our behavior specialist, board certified behavioral analyst, Danielle Myrtle Miller. who is on the board and one of our supports from Soliant, who is a contracted provider.
All right, this next slide I'm going to share with you has some really detailed information about our entry criteria. So our leadership team reviews all referrals, as Dr. Abbott shared. We will do that during our leadership team meetings, and the intervention is open to supporting all learners, and all decisions are data-based. And this is regarding those students demonstrating need through the following criteria. So we're looking at if these students have exhausted all the efforts through our multi-tiered systems of supports, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 services. We ask that we are able to review a functional behavioral analysis completed for the learner. And also that there be an behavior improvement plan that has been implemented, and we have data that shows the success or lack of success in regards to the implementation of that plan. We look at very specific incident data. We look at the school-wide informational system, which is a system that we use across the Svu Esd. And then we also look at documentation of the placement of where the learner is, and if there is sufficient information in regards to their response to their current placement. Now, this is also, it's also important to really understand that we're looking at all students. So through our EST teams, through our 504 teams, through our individual education plan and IEP teams, we can receive referrals for learners.
So once a learner is accepted into the intervention, the most critical piece of our work is around progress monitoring, how that student is doing with that intervention. So I want to give you a little definition here to give you a sense of, so we're not using educational acronyms. So if a child enters the intervention through an EST, which is an educational support team plan, or a 504 plan, which is an Americans with Disabilities Act accommodation plan, or an IEP, which is an individual education plan, which includes goals, regardless of how the type of plan goals the child is entering this intervention with, we progress monitor. So the major focus of the on-point intervention is around helping ensure children are able to regulate their behavior and remain safe so they can access general education environments. So the FBA, the Functional Behavioral Assessment, is an assessment that's done for every learner entering the intervention that then informs a behavior plan. And the FBA is really, the point of doing an FBA is to look at what are those challenging behaviors that student is challenged with or struggling with that interfere with their learning, and what is the root cause of those behaviors? And then how do we help teach that child how to use more adaptive behaviors or support that child's environment so that they can be better regulated? And though that information then drives a behavior plan, which then helps us identify, is the child making progress? And so we monitor those behavior plans around documented PBIS incentives, the positive behavioral intervention supports incentives that we document. Both classrooms use a point system, as well as we have IEPs that document how much time that child is able to access a general education environment versus a more restrictive classroom setting. And then we have now instituted monthly meetings with both the general education teacher and the on-point team case manager, so that the sending school where the student originated from is connected with that child's growth and still knows how that child is doing in the intervention in preparation for that child being able to return to their home school environment.
Great, thank you, Kate. So now we get to speak to exit criteria. So we're always looking to make sure that we're monitoring learners, we're looking at their progress, and we're identifying the right time for learners to transition back into their home school or into a less restrictive environment. This information that you see right at the top of your screen is actually taken from our multi-tiered plan of systems of support, and it's for our district. So this is an actual statement from there. And as you know, as board members, the student support district team led by Laura Boudreau, she actually supports that team and facilitates the team's work each time they do meet. And we are responding to that in regards to how students are responding to the interventions we're providing for them. So it's really important to think about progress. Our team is actually meeting, and this time that they meet, the student support district team is meeting, we're looking at recommending that there be an increase to 90% safety for 2 consecutive months. And so that's one thing that we're going to consider. And it's one of the goals that we want to really identify for this intervention. So it's important to see that there's an improvement, a decrease in dangerous behaviors or unsafe behaviors. And then we're also looking for that consistency to continue over time, which helps us to identify when is the right time for students to move to a less restrictive environment. And I also just want to reiterate that we've got some great collaboration going on right now with our case managers at On Point Intervention, our home schools or school of attendance for learners, our associate directors of student services are leading and facilitating these monthly meetings. So we've divided them up into Wednesdays to do this work. And it's really important for the home schools to see the progress learners are making, and also for there to continue to be a relationship and established communication between the two areas.
So you may have heard of On Point in the past, and the On Point that exists this year is has come a long way since just a year ago at this time. So we wanted to share some of the initiatives and that we've led this year at the On Point intervention location, so that you have a sense of how much, what that intervention looks like now and compared to, what you might have known about On Point in the past. So the first initiative we led this year was to designate a leadership team. So instead of the leadership being maybe 1 or 2 people from the district, our leadership team, as you saw, is made up of individuals from both our community partners through UCS, as well as principals from the middle school and the elementary school and behavioral support team. We've added a board certified behavioral specialist, as well as United Counseling mental health supports, as well as a social worker to provide therapeutic approach to intervention at On Point. We've shifted from K-6 to K-8, and we have added staffing and teaching staff, as well as paraeducator support, to ensure that we are providing appropriately certified individuals to address the needs of a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade learner. We've we've made a lot of adaptations to the building. This year with COVID, we've had some different guidance in terms of Rule 4500 and how we approach learners who aren't able to meet the expectations for mask wearing and maintaining safe behavior. So we've added a seclusion space at the On Point intervention site so that learners who are dysregulated and aren't able to keep their masks on aren't exposing other staff members to that. And we've also added individual confidential counseling spaces so that the counselors and social workers can work in a confidential manner with their learners. We've implemented district benchmarking and state assessments, and we really want to thank Melissa Senecal and Nick Svuesd for some of the great work that they've done to help our on-point intervention team access the great district curriculum resources, as well as implement district benchmarking that all learners receive to make sure that they are on track with proficiencies for graduation, as well as state assessments. And then we've had ongoing professional learning for both the professionals and paraprofessional staff. The on-point intervention team meets every day at 8:30 to discuss our development of our MTSS system at that site, to look at effective, reactive strategies, effective proactive strategies, and to address needs as they arise as we learn together how to best support our learners with the need for the trauma-sensitive intervention.
All right. And to continue with some more initiatives that we've implemented over at OnPoint, I want to speak to some additional supports that we have for central office, the first being with technology. So immediately we identified the needs to improve upon or provide certainly hardware and software to not only our professionals, our paraprofessionals, and our learners. We had such a very quick response from our tech team, and thank you to that leadership with Frank Barnes. That was wonderful. And we're chipping away at all of the glitches that arise, and everyone has been really responsive, whether it has been at the elementary, middle, or high school level in regards to learners and tech needs, and certainly at the high school when we talk about the building itself. We want to thank Nurse Restino, who has been a guiding force and oversight in regards to the needs of our learners. She has been over there responding to staff. She's supporting the COVID guidelines, making sure that we're following the needs for our learners and our staff members. She's working collaboratively with a staff member there as nurse designee. And the nice part is I have a direct connection to her here. So we really do talk daily about the needs of the intervention at OnPoint. Paul DeMarco, Charles Conley, and Don Campbell have been amazing. They are sharing the on-site support with myself and Dr. Abbott. So there is an administrator there now every single day to support staff and learners. I think that's been a great improvement. I hope others do feel the same in regards to that. And then they're also supporting all of the case managers and the work that they need to do, their engagement in DocuSped, their engagement with Infinite Campus, their meetings, whether that be a 504 meeting, an IEP meeting. They're helping to facilitate, lead, and work collaboratively with teams over there. Jessa Ordway, our district coach, she has been meeting with the core team from OnPoint since September. They are developing an MTSS reactive plan that really focuses on who they are as a community. And that work has continued, and they're really making great strides. We thank our core team from OnPoint as well as Jessa for working so diligently. And our new board certified behavior analyst, Danielle Myrtle Miller, is taking a lead on that core team too. So we're really pleased to see what has been happening since her addition to the intervention. Last but not least, let me move back one. When we talk about our Svuesd data, they are also implementing and using the program of our school-wide informational system to log in the behaviors that they're observing from learners. And so we have some really clear data to share with our teams to our homeschool and within the intervention itself. And last but not least, we're really pleased with the implementation, as we've mentioned before, but we really think this is key. Monthly meetings to ensure ongoing communication and progress updates with the learners from their home school of attendance, as well as our teams. So I think that's going to be really key when we talk about how students transition into a lesser restrictive environment or back to their school of attendance.
I see Mr. France has his hand up. Thank you, Donna. Oh, you're muted. So sorry.
Yeah, Mr. France doesn't work very well. That's what my wife says when I'm in trouble. Dick is good, but how you've got all your bases covered here, it sounds like. My question is a mechanical one. Do you have difficulty getting students there and keeping them there?
Well, our hope actually is to get students there, help them learn how to regulate, give them wraparound care and counseling to get them back to their home school. So because we like to think of any intervention as a temporary intervention until that child has the supports that they need in order to be a little bit better regulated and better supported. This year has been tricky with, well, we've had, I'd say, kind of a challenge as well as a blessing with COVID, because while children are very much in pods right now, they aren't crossing over. Different group inclusion has been difficult. We have been able to, with Donna's help and with Tony Lee's support and with Tim Payne's support, been able to allow children to integrate back to their unified arts classes with their peers from their home school so that they maintain those relationships and have the benefit of those classes. So, so to your question, has it been easy to maintain students at On Point? I think students in the On Point intervention are very comfortable being at On Point, and now we're trying to help them learn and grow so that they can return back to their home schools.
Thank you.
Donna, did you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I would just also like to add that the collaboration, not only with the middle school, Tim Payne and Tony Lee, our elementary schools and within the Svu Esd immediately responded when we asked for some support for learners to access unified arts classes. And so case managers now, I mean, those principals, they immediately emailed back and said, here's the person, here's your connection, have them reach right out to those teachers. And so that really happened quickly. And I just would like to also share, with anything that we have, tried to support this intervention with, and the staff that supports these learners, I think it's been really quick. I really think the response has been overwhelmingly positive. I've reached out to my colleagues. The leadership with Dr. Abbott has been great. We meeting on a weekly basis. When we have discovered the need for some professional learning or supports or access to central office, our curriculum department, Laura Boudreau, technology, all very quick responses in regards to the needs that we've made them aware of.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. I didn't mean to shortchange our elementary principals at all. Sorry.
Quick question on the seclusion room. Is there state or federal policies that guide these rooms? Because you always hear some horrific stories in the news about seclusion rooms. So I'm just wondering what the state practice is, or if there's a federal guideline on reporting out if you put kids in the seclusion rooms.
Do you want to lead that one, Donna?
I will do my best. Please jump in if you feel there's something I've forgotten. So I think, once again, we have some enormous support from Mark Boudreau as the CPI instructor and trainer who guides. We often unpack with him if we do have incidents. There is really particular guidelines this year because of COVID. And so we have been able to follow them in order to and ensure that we can keep our learners and our staff members safe. So there is a very specific protocol that we do follow. I'm noting you're saying I forget how you described it, your concern and about the maybe some things that you've heard, but I think what I have observed, if we do have an incident where a learner, may present with some unsafe behaviors, we're really working as a team over there, following the guidelines, following the training that they've received from Mark Boudreau. He ensures that everyone has their refresher courses and are trained appropriately, and every single incident is reviewed by him, which is incredibly helpful. And we're always able to review it, unpack it, look at how we will support if something happens moving forward, and then the next time, hopefully there won't. But I'm really have to say that it's really very specific, the guidelines, and then it's followed up with very specific paperwork, and it's always communicated with central office and superintendent and assistant superintendent. So it's a very, very clear protocol of what we need to do.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I know sometimes, you want to make sure those paperwork in pieces and that's reporting up to the proper places. And I think, it used to be, I think seclusion rooms, you need to report federally if kids are put in it. So I just want to make sure that we're following the same policies that are put forward from federal and state guidance.
Yes, it definitely is a policy, and we're following the guidance. And there is also a timeline informing families, informing the superintendent, informing our interim director of student services. So on that day, we are making sure that our information is shared.
Okay, perfect. That's what I want to hear then. Thanks.
Chris?
So Principal Colley, thank you very much. And Dr. Abbott, thank you both for the time. I'm wondering if either of you can outline for us how that 30 student capacity is distributed between the older kids who attend the middle school and the younger kids who have our elementary schools as their school of attendance.
So there are 2 classes for the grades 6 through 8, and the remaining 4 classes are grades K through 5.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And of the 24 students that are there now, how many, here's the root of my question and my thoughts around this, is that an 8th grader in the midst of a crisis response and a trauma response in school looks very different than a first grader or a kindergartner who is in the midst of a crisis response and a trauma response. And I'm hoping you can each speak to sort of how the elementary school kids are kept not only physically safe, but sort of kept emotionally safe as we have, these far larger kids having their difficult time and receiving the support that they need. But how do we shield our elementary school kids from being exposed to that in the program? Particularly, I would add, it's been a long time since I've been in that building, but it's a pretty small building for what sounds like as many as 50 people at any given time, between the 20 staff members and the 30 kids. So I'd just be interested to hear sort of more about what that looks like on an ongoing basis, please.
I can give you a little reminder of the physical plant, which I think will help answer your question. The space for either the cool down room or the seclusion space, and we also have an isolation, space for COVID, are located right next to the upper grades classroom. So they're adjoining. The elementary classrooms are in the main hall, which is in slightly, one hallway over from the seclusion space if need be. But in terms of like, how do you shield children from other children's behavior? All of the children, so of the 4,500 reports we've had throughout the year, there's only been 2 to 3 of the upper grade learners, and the remainder of the 4,500 reports are the majority of children who use the seclusion space are the younger learners. And that's just from the data perspective of reviewing all the 4,500 reports. Donna, did you have any additional pieces to add?
I was just going to try and also support, what the physical space looks like. Please understanding also our COVID guidelines and capacity is much different this year. And that each one of our case managers, teachers has their own individual space. it was, I think the process and the thoughtfulness of which space was for most appropriate for each group of learners was, I think the team put a lot of effort and thought into, and also actually made a change not too long ago in one of our spaces in regards to more learners coming back. Some were on, a hybrid schedule, and now that we're trying to ensure that all of our children are attending 4 days, so there was a thoughtful process in that and what might be more appropriate. And they came together as a team to really decide upon that. But I would agree, everything that Kate had shared, I think is very much accurate. And I think the other thing to remember is that we may have incidents, but with the group of supportive professionals, what we're looking for is a decrease in those incidents. And that her depiction of the grade level, I would agree, there were less at the upper level than at the younger level.
Thank you. Thank you both. And I think I heard Cindy also maybe had a question.
Yeah, I wanted to compliment Dr. Abbott and Donna for pulling together all the groups that these children during the COVID, because it's been so hard on a lot of kids, physically, emotionally. And I think the groups that you've put together, if they can't help these children, nobody can. So I thank you, because I'm very impressed with this On Point thing.
Can I also follow that up with, I think we really have to note our families, our guardians, our families that are also supporting these children during this time. I know this has really been challenging and difficult, just like all of our schools, but they are really working closely together with their case managers. And so, applauding the work that's going on at home, it's really important to reiterate and remember.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Are there any other questions from board members? Great. Well, thank you. I mean, to everyone who presented tonight from each of our schools, thank you very much. This was hugely informative, certainly for me, and I would imagine for the other board members as well. So thank you very much for that. Anything else before we move on to our next agenda item? Actually, Superintendent Culkeen, anything remaining in your superintendent's report? And you are muted still.
I'm good. I'm good. I'll
Okay.
do the verbal and the thumb. How's that? I'm good. Thank you.
Very good. So our next agenda item are policies. We do have a number of policies to be warned. I did note, however, too late, and I take responsibility for that I do not believe that these policies were included in our board packet. Just as a point of order, we warn policies, we then come back and we approve policies. So I don't believe there would be any harm in us continuing to move the ball forward by warning each of these policies. But I'll ask Superintendent Culkeen to make sure that Amy is able to get these policies forwarded to the board members well in anticipation of next meeting, please.
I'm making note of it now.
Just let them know,
Thank you.
I got them, Chris, in my hard copy the other day.
Okay.
I got mine too.
But electronically, they weren't there. Is that what
electronically? I didn't see if they were there. I apologize, but I don't see them in the electronic packet, and that's the only one that I've asked to receive. So I would ask for a blanket motion to warn each of the policies that have been noted in the agenda.
Can I just make one comment? I know you don't
Sure.
have it in front of you. There's the one 5010,
Mhm.
Compensatory Education Parent Involvement. It looks like a whole bunch of stuff was striked out. So I think, that one, it looked like it got, cut down quite heavily.
Then put a hold on that one if you want to wait.
I mean, I don't mind putting it out there, but I think, what it comes to is, is really the parent involvement piece, which, this might be a discussion for later on. Is to consult with parents on an ongoing basis, considering the manner which schools and parents can work together. That line was striked out. I mean, as a district, it's pretty common in other districts to have parent advisory committees. I'm wondering if we need to look into a parent advisory committee for our district as we're becoming a larger district, bringing Arlington, so we have more parent involvement with the advisory committees. These are quite common in Massachusetts. You know, they have the special ed parent advisory committee. I don't need to think we need to be that specific, but I think looking into a parent advisory committee, so there's a little more transparency between, you know, parents, school board, and administration might be worth looking into at a later point. So I want to kind of put that as an earmark for, you know, maybe next month or future meetings to really talk about the parent advisory committee.
So, you know, and I like the idea, Jeff. Certainly just as a concept all by itself, I like the idea. I think what we would probably have to do is to loop in, is to have that notion brought up at an SVSU meeting, since it's since all of our policies are driven by the SVSU policy committee. That's probably where that would have to come in. But I'm happy to just mention that as a possibility to Leon, who chairs the committee, when we next get together. I think that makes sense for the reasons you note, and just as a way of drawing in more community involvement. I think that could make sense. And there may be reasons that aren't even occurring to me why that, you know, isn't feasible or isn't advisable, but it sounds great. It sounds great to think of it.
Yes.
I will, I can, at my next regional superintendent's meeting, I'm happy to ask who locally, this would be all the Southern Vermont superintendents may have one. And if there's a model policy that dictates what that looks like, and so we could jumpstart, so we're not inventing from day one.
No, I think, like I said, you know, I know in Massachusetts, they have them for every district for special education, you know, state law.
Well, that's required by law in Massachusetts.
And I think up in Burlington, there is one of the school districts that does have a parent advisory committee. So, I mean, there are some schools doing it.
And that's, I'll inquire from the, I can send an email to the Vermont Superintendent's Association with a request for information. I'll get back and answer, see who's doing it and who's willing to share what they have.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jim.
And I'm also just thinking that you mentioned the strikeouts in 5010 and the draft of 5010. My recollection is that 5010, just like 5009, are tied into title funding, and that there was a shift, and maybe I have this. I think this is the case. There was a shift in the wording of our mandates, and so we're trying to update our policy to match what the current mandates are, to keep it in line with the title. Okay, and I see the assistant superintendent giving the thumbs up.
That's correct. This is they're linked to the title. We have as laws shift, our language is requested to shift, and so these are changes that have been requested. That doesn't change the fact that talking about parent engagement is super important, but some of it is linked to our title funding. Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't have a problem with the rest of just warning them all as a blank, you know, slate. So I'll make that motion to warn them all.
Okay, I do see Dick with his hand up. So Dick, the floor is yours.
Well, just a comment about most of these policies. Many of them were changed to get rid of redundancies and difficult passages to get things accomplished. But as Laura said, the 5010 was a state requirement that changed things. We could still add a parent group as part of administrative regs without having to change any policy statement at all. And the other question I had is, somewhere along the line, my memory says that we got into trouble blanket approving policies rather than individually approving them. I don't want to drag this out. I just say that I thought there was something where we had an issue with that.
Well, you know, institutional memory is an important thing too. So let's do this. Let's fire away very quickly. Jeff, would you like to modify your motion to limit it to just warning 1,000? Could I have a second, please?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
I hear Cindy on that. So any discussion about warning policy 1,000? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Could I have a motion to warn 2,400, please?
So moved.
I see Dick. Could I have a second, please? I have a second from Cindy. Any discussion about warning 2,400? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Could I have a motion to warn 2,450, please?
So
Dick
moved.
is the first.
Second.
Cindy's the second. Any discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor of warning 2,450, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes. Could I have a motion to warn 4327, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Dick.
Second.
Thank you, Cindy. Any discussion? Warning 4327. Hearing none. All those in favor of warning 4327, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I have a motion to warn 5009, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you,
Second.
Cindy. There she is. Thank you, Cindy. Any discussion on warning 5009? Hearing none. All those in favor of warning 5009, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I have a motion, please, to warn 5010, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Dick.
Second.
Thank you, Cindy. Any discussion on warning 5010? Hearing none. All those in favor of warning 5010, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I have a motion to warn 5156, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Dick.
Second.
Thank you, Cindy. Any discussion on warning 5156? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. And lastly, could I have a motion to warn 5405, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Dick.
Second.
Thank you, Cindy. Any discussion on warning 5405? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. And that brings us to agenda item 8, which is the chair's report. And I will say that I do not have any. There's been a load of great information shared this evening. So thank you, everyone, for presenting the information, for asking thoughtful questions, and for staying engaged throughout the whole process. Thank you for that. And that leads us to the final agenda item, which is just our FYI notifications. We have the budget status report, the financial management questionnaire, the student enrollment info for last month, and the draft calendar for the 21-22 academic year. So with
the draft calendar, we build the calendar regionally by state law. We're required to develop a regional calendar. So like start dates and vacation periods kind of locked in by what we do regionally. The only variation is maybe when the end of the year is because not everyone goes the same amount of days. It's anywhere from 170 to 180. So it's a regional calendar. And I will mention, there's a lot of talk about going to a statewide calendar for a number of reasons. I don't think the superintendents were instructed this year to go ahead and continue, this is recently as last week in our meeting with the Secretary of Education, go ahead and construct our regional calendars, which I have to submit by April. But a statewide calendar do not stop our work on regional calendars because we think a statewide calendar is coming. So, but I do think it may come at some point, not this year.
And at this point, Jim, you don't need any action from this board.
No action. No, it's actually it's the superintendent's responsibility to set the calendar, but it's my job to inform everyone, including the union. But
gotcha.
Just a quick question, Jim, because I've never asked in the past and I've always thought it. How much input do we have on moving some of the, I guess, the days off or the teacher in service days? Because sometimes it just doesn't make sense from an educational point to have, go to school and have Monday off, do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then have Friday off. Is there a way to put those 2 off days closer together? Whether it be, day off, I think like Martin Luther King always is one of those funny holidays where there's a teacher in service day around there. Is there a way to stack them so it could be a long weekend? Or
some of those days are regionally set, and some of those days are by, particularly teacher days are by contract for when they have to be. So it's not as staggered as you would think. So there's could we consider moving some of the days? We do. We are constantly looking at what fits best for the schedule, but in alignment, we try to do regional professional learning days as much as we can as possible, because we try to share resources with other districts.
Yeah, I was always just curious about that, why we pick certain days. Okay, that's all I need to know. Thanks, Jim.
So with that, folks, I would thank you for what's been the longest board meeting we've had in a very long time, but I thought it was well worth it. And as I said, lots of great stuff was shared. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Cindy. Well, I'm sorry, what was that, Superintendent Culkeen?
I said thank you to everyone, and especially those who presented tonight. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Yes,
So we have a
great
first and a
job.
second. Any discussion on adjourning? Hearing none, all
No.
those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Be
Aye.
safe,
Any
everyone.
abstentions? Motion carries and we are adjourned. Thank